A collaborate of two Disney establishment stars, Tom Holland, otherwise known as the MCU Spider-Man, and Daisy Ridley, Rey from the Star Wars spin-offs, Disarray Walking, happens eventually. Earthlings have left their corrupted homeworld to seed new frameworks. Holland's personality, Todd Hewitt, is the gullible teen child of a rancher, Damien Beecher, in a little town, Prentisstown, on a backwater planet. The pioneers here seem to have been disregarded. There are not a single ladies to be found. We're informed that the native populace killed every one of the ladies, counting Todd's mom, during a conflict among themselves and the colonizers. The city chairman of the town, Mads Mikkelsen's David Prentiss, has constructed a religion of upheld, ritualized hypermanliness, with men insisting that they get strength from the noise around their heads, reprimanding themselves and each other for showing shortcoming in communicating sentiments, and oppressing any man who does on grounds that he's behaving like a lady. Ridley's personality, Viola Eade, falls into this macho cesspool when the space apparatus bearing her toward the planet breakdowns, saving her in the forest beyond town, the last one standing of a merciless accident. Obviously Todd sees as her and fosters a crush on her, and it's inevitable before he needs to safeguard her against an all-male crowd, the greater part of which has never seen a genuine, live, young lady, previously. Viola doesn't require security, truly, she's precisely able, and can battle. However, she really wants an aide through the wild to take her to find a transmitter left over from a past mission, which will empower her to call for help. Pretty before long we're in the area of a generous science fiction show like E.T. or Starman, spinning around a clairvoyantly fortified couple, one of which is more exceptionally developed than the other. Obviously it's begging to be proven wrong which of these two is better prepared for endurance. Todd is a more capable contender and executioner, yet the noise in his mind wards radiating his situation, as well as the contemplations he needs to keep hidden. The science fiction components coincide with a wild endurance picture viewpoint, as well as pieces of an outdated Hollywood Western about the governmental issues of a civilization in a boondocks, based on colonized land. There's a romantic tale, as well, kind of, in spite of the fact that Todd's essentially sexless, pre-juvenile approach to connecting with ladies and Ridley's superfit, large careful energies, likewise her energy in the Star Wars films, guarantee that any science between them is smothered or recoordinated. That's what its baffling, disorder walking, scarcely digs into the history of the native race of humanoids that were beaten into accommodation by the people and that evidently troubled the enduring people with discernible/apparent considerations, as though reviling them for the wrongdoings they perpetrated. We meet one of the locals in a concise, fierce activity scene. It is feeling the loss of an arm starting from the elbow. But then, at that point, there's a ton of detail that gets skimmed over in the critical push to get Viola and Todd to the transmitter. Lyman's deftness at arranging huge scope yet cozy activity scenes consume spaces that might have been better off with more world-building and philosophical religious discussion, as well as more understanding into the historical backdrop of this colonized world, which resounds with accounts of annihilation against native individuals inside the United States and in nations abroad. Australia and Japan make perfectly Westerns, as well, and suggests folklore and sacred writing. Todd is much of the time envisioned eating apples, yet the men in the film have been denied information. There's likewise a not too inconspicuous critique on the distinctions among manliness and gentility as it's regularly developed by social orders. Notice that the men are exceptionally simple to peruse, for better and more regrettable, while the ladies keep quiet and have antiquated information than can recuperate the men. Not that we get significantly more than a couple of bits of any of this. The film is under 2 hours in length, and it attempts to make as much progress as a time of a TV show while taking on a steady speed like a trailer. At the point when it stops to pause and rest, as in a long scene of one person perusing out loud to another, you get a brief look at the easier, more centered, really remunerating film that might have been. To fair, Tumult Walk possesses a precarious commercial center position and seems to have decided to rehearse self-restriction to exist. It's a $100 million planned science fiction picture, not little, using any and all means, yet in addition not large by the norms of Star Wars or Marvel, which regularly drop somewhere in the range of $250 to $400 million on a solitary element. Perhaps the command was to bait new crowds with activity and potential, sentiment and the relative star force of Ridley in Holland, then, at that point, go further off course in ongoing portions. In any case, what wound up on screen feels not exactly there a ton of the time, which is definitely not a brilliant method for attempting to catch individuals' minds and make them request continuations. Why even bother with avoiding any unnecessary risk on the off chance that it delivers a similar outcome as though you'd put it all on the line? This is especially baffling given that Ridley and Holland are conveying eminent, unaffected exhibitions as characters that we truly care about, in a climate that has been worked out barely to the point of causing you to focus on the tempting unanswered inquiries that the film is never going to accomplish more than look at. The undernourished viewpoints incorporate the harmful manliness faction that Prentiss has developed and supported. His central helper, played by David Oyelowo, is a troublemaker who has incorporated all that the esteemed minister showed him, turning into an extreme progressive who as of now suspects he'd make a superior head of men. Mickelson's way to deal with his guaranteed character is hypnotizing, as is much of the time the case with this entertainer. Burning through the vast majority of the film's running time riding a horse, wearing a rich, long fur garment and floppy overflowed cap which channels every one of the wanton peacocks that Marlon Brando played after middle age, and conveying his lines in a mix murmuring Eurorhythm and Boondocks drone, he's constantly roost on the blade's edge of hamminess. However, it's difficult to reject that in some way, bafflingly, similar to Lebowski's Matt, he integrates the entire thing. Praise to Lyman and his colleagues, counting a sound group comprising of multiple dozen individuals, for showing us something we haven't precisely seen previously, beyond a couple of stray scenes or successions in clairvoyant repulsiveness or superhuman pictures where the fundamental characters need to figure out how to specifically screen out the information that their exceptionally progressed faculties/minds are vacuuming up. Turmoil Walking submerges the watcher in an alternate sort of true-to-life headspace, making a film that steadily shows the watcher how to watch it. A chunk of time must pass to become accustomed to the manner in which these characters connect, especially the manner in which they safeguard their contemplations from others by rehashing unbiased words and expressions like mantras, and how their covered-up or uncovered considerations are imagined in the radiances around their heads. In any case, whenever you're submerged, a strong encounter waits in the psyche long after the film's numerous failures have begun to blur. How might an individual endure even an hour in a world like this one without going frantic, or making someone else need to kill them? To cite Bob Dylan's, "It's all right, Ma, I'm only bleeding, if my idea dreams should have been visible/you'd place my head in a guillotine."